Namaskar and welcome. My name is Peter Abraham, and here we are once again at this very first edition of the India Poker Championships Final Table Series, taking place exclusively at SpartanPoker.com. Well, we're down to the final table of the fifth tournament of this terrific online series, and it's the day of the hunt today because we are about to start with the final table of the 35 lakh guaranteed Headhunter event. But before that, it's time to give you a chance to win 2 tickets to the Flash tournament that's going to take place tomorrow night. So here comes that contest question. According to you, what will be the series guarantee for the upcoming 10th edition of the India Online Poker Championship? Yes, the IOPC is doing its 10th ever edition, and we want you to answer your thoughts about what that series guarantee will be. To answer this contest question, tag our Twitter handle at IndiaPokerChamp in your tweet, followed by the hashtag FTS. Include your name and your Spartan ID. And if your answer is the correct one and chosen, then you will win a free ticket worth 1,100 rupees into the 6 lakh guaranteed Flash tournament taking place tomorrow night at 9:30 p.m. We are going to announce the winner of this contest ahead in the live stream. So make sure you stay tuned to find out if you are the winner. Now, before we proceed with the final table of the 35 lakh guaranteed Headhunter event of this FTS series at Spartan Poker, let me give you a quick update on what went down at the felts of the 1 crore guaranteed High Roller event, which took place yesterday. And for that, I'm going to be joined by our charming poker expert. Yes, we're running through the alphabet here for this gentleman. We're running through with, we started with Affable and now we're on the letter C. So our charming poker expert all the way from the UK, Sam Razavi, joins us, as does the lovely Radhika Shankar from the capital city of Delhi, who has created a strong position for herself in the Indian poker scene in a very short time. Sam Razavi and Radhika Shankar, welcome to the live stream. It's great to have you guys once again with us.
Oh, it's great to be here. And for once, I have to totally agree with you. Charming describes me to a T. Thank you so much. For that.
And for once, I have to agree with you as well, because he surely is charming.
There we go.
Wonderful.
Great to be here again. Looking forward to commentating again tonight. Should be a lot of fun.
Yes, it will be. It's great to have these guys with us. And if you haven't watched that final table of the High Roller event yet, please go back and check out the video that you can see on all of our social media channels. But let me tell you that there were a total of 156 entries that resulted in a prize pool of 1.17 crores. So clearly passing that 1 crore guarantee in the process. And we witnessed some seriously classic poker action taking place on the felt, as some of Indian poker's top heavyweights were a part of the 6 max final table. Guys, I don't think there was a single person out there on that table that we didn't know about. Everyone was a known quantity.
Yeah, in one way or the other, either absolute beasts from the live world of poker, or people that have really, cut their way through the online games. So yeah, it was a great mix of the two, and it was just a fantastic display of poker, to be honest.
Yesterday's final table had the cream of the crop. It really had the absolute uppermost layer of Indian poker players. It was a real treat to watch. Yes, some of them are from my neck of the woods, and it made me feel happy.
And just to take you all through who those final table players were and what they finished up at, let's take a look at the 6 players on that final table, starting with the first elimination, which was the short stack of Gokul Raj Dharmarajan playing as Super Kings. We know this player, quite an affable chap in himself, and he was nursing a short stack, hoping to get that double up and sort of get into the middle of the counts, but it really wasn't to be, Sam. One of the first eliminations off this table, but not bad. A little under 7 lakhs to sort of soothe this sting of getting out first on that final table.
Yeah, I think he was, if I recall, he got very unlucky trying to slow play the aces against King 3 of Diamonds, and definitely might be reconsidering his username, Super Kings. The King of Diamonds did play a part with Kevin McPhee involved. And yeah, he just got very unfortunate and had those aces, had that tricky play held up. Could have been a totally different story.
All right, after him was Rajesh Singh, who got out in 5th position. Rajesh, in fact, Radhika, was the chip leader when this final table at the high roller began.
Yes.
And, just a few hands that didn't go really his way, and
Yes.
one thing sort of led to another, and that was the end of his run, finishing in 5th place with a payday of 8.63 lakhs.
It's happened to us. I'm sure each one of us as players as well, where you entered an FT as the chip leader and a couple of hands don't go your way, or you lose a couple of flips, or, a suck out or a hand over hand. Something happens and you sort of lose that lead, and, tables turn, and, from being right up there, you can be the next guy out. And that is what happened with him. It was kind of unfortunate, but that's just, call it umbrella variance or whatever you want to call it. But that happened.
So Rajesh Singh playing as rules, finishing up at 5th position in that high roller event. And following him was the elimination of Sajal Gupta playing as Go Muck Yourself. All of us commentators in the booth quite tickled about that little username of his. And Sajal Gupta, another fine player from the scene, he took home 10.7 lakhs for his 4th place finish in the high roller. Sam, I think, besides, of course, the cute username that's there, Sajal held himself for a while there, but I don't think he really got too much of a traction going, in terms of building that stack into a little bit of more commanding situation.
Yeah, I was loving the username, and unfortunately, he didn't really pick up many situations where he could really get any, as you say, traction going, and it just ended up whittling down, and it is what it is. It goes like that sometimes, and sometimes you need the run of the cards with you as well, and he didn't have it on this occasion. So
I think at some point he did manage a double up or almost a 3/4 of his stack. He did chip up a little bit. I think from Raghav Bansal, they had gotten into a hand together. He had chipped up a bit to 14-15 million. And then again, I think a hand or two. And again, he lost his stack. And then he, like you said, he couldn't, he wasn't really getting great cards to see himself through further than that 4th place finish.
Yeah, the momentum factor is so serious and so required, especially when you're playing like in a very high pressure tournament like the high roller event. So we were not really surprised to see that the final 3 players who remained were 3 of the strongest players on the circuit. That's Aditya Sushant, in fact, India's first bracelet winner from the World Series. And he was followed by Raghav Bansal and Jagdeep Singh, both prolific guys who have established their credentials over the course of the past many years. And there were a few hands that they played. There were some swingy moments there, with Raghav Bansal, in fact, being the shortest of the 3 stacks, but he pulled himself back to get to an almost even stack situation with the other 2. We had a guest commentator in Sumit Sapra who had joined us at that point in time when I think play was about maybe 4 or 5 handed. And it was Sumit who made that suggestion about these final 3 or 4 players remaining, that they might end up making a chop of the prize pool. And in fact, that's what happened once action got into three-way. So the 3 players that remained, Aditya Sushant, Jagdeep Singh, and Raghav Bansal, they were at roughly about 20 million chips or thereabouts. And that's when they decided to do that 3-handed chop. You think the decision was okay?
Yeah, like unlike the other day when the chip leader had that massive lead and there were 2 other shorties compared to his stack, I think yesterday's chop was quite all right because it wasn't like 1 lion and 2 deer. It was like 3 big lions sitting together and they just decided to share the meal. And given the stack sizes and the talent level, I mean, it was all really as at par as it can be. They were literally head to head. There was the one lucky guy who got the medallion just by a few thousands, but that's
Yes, we will come to that.
yes,
As
yes,
Radhika
lucky.
mentioned.
So cool. That was
In
so
fact,
cool.
that was probably the best case of timing that I've seen, because just before the deal happened, Aditya Sushant managed to get some chips into the middle with his
He
betting.
got a walk, if I was not mistaken, on a jacket or
Was it a walk?
something. I think it was a walk, and he just picked up those blinds, and then they did the deal. It was
And
pretty
that's
cool.
exactly how it went down.
All the players would be quite experienced when it comes to deal making, and with the chip stacks being so close, that would have been the deciding factor. Because even with a player as strong as Ragav, if he had that 6 million, they wouldn't be discussing a deal because it would make no sense, even no matter how strong the player is. So it made absolute sense from a business point of view to chop up the cash.
So in third position, it was Jagdeep Singh, who took 20.49 lakhs. And that was followed by Raghav Bansal, who finished in the runner-up position with 20.78 lakhs. And yes, once again, Sam, it was just a difference of about 70,000 in chips, which resulted from that walk that Radhika was referring to, that enabled our eventual winner, Aditya Sushant, aka Super User, who takes home the title, the prize money of 20.97 lakhs, and of course, that much coveted 18 karat gold medallion, along with the winner certificate and the gift hamper. So he had the biggest stack, not by much, but he did have the biggest stack, and that resulted in him walking away with the title. Well, that about sums up what happened at the final table of the 1 crore guaranteed high roller FTS event. And now let's put on our hunting gear so that we can get started with today's tournament, the 35 lakh guaranteed headhunter, where every head has a value on it today. So, guys, I think this is a format that I don't know about Radhika, but I think Sam enjoys the headhunter format. I've played with him on a couple of occasions in the Asian tournament circuit. And in fact, the last time we played together, he knocked me out twice in a KO tournament in the span of 20 minutes. So it took some time for my heart to heal.
Yeah, I can't remember the 2 times I knocked you out. I tried to wipe bad memories from my head.
Back to you. What about me?
But yeah, of course, the headhunter always attracts players because it's just more action. It drives the action.
Yeah,
And
so to be honest, like when I had first started playing, I was pretty scared of the bounty format. I used to find it too aggressive and too wild. It was way too wild for me. But now, in the recent past, I've begun to quite enjoy it, and I have been playing quite a bit of not a lot, but a fair amount of bounty, games online. Of course, there hasn't been any offline games, but yeah, it's definitely very action packed, and the lure of that little the bounty. Everyone gets a little looser, wilder. You know, I love it when suddenly all in, like 5 guys will go all in. And like and that last guy probably has like Jack 7 off, and he'll probably take it all. It's just so it's crazy sometimes.
so let's take a look at the 8 finalists of this particular tournament. Remember, we saw a massive 292 entries who took part in this particular headhunter event, and that culminated in a prize pool of over 43.8 lakhs. So here we go. Let's take a look at the finalists of this headhunter tournament. Starting with a very familiar name from the circuit, we've got Ashish Ahuja, aka Spewshy, who's got the biggest stack out there with, I beg your pardon, a little over 1.3 million in chips, or 13 lakhs 28,000 chips. Ashish Ahuja, he's got a fair number of title wins. I believe Sam and I have also had this brief discussion before the stream where you've mentioned that you, Raghav, and Ashish shared some table time together at the WSOP last year.
Yesterday, when we were talking about Raghav, he finished third in the event 42, the 600 mixed pot limit Omaha and no limit Hold'em, and Ashish actually came fifth in that event, and I came 10th. And so Ashish and I played a fair bit together when we were down to the final two tables. He's a very humble guy, actually, a really, really great character. He kind of flies under the radar a bit,
I was about to say that he's not one of those brash, out there kind of poker players, and we know quite a few of those guys. But Ashish is one of those, he's like a big bear. He's like nice and quiet, and it just goes about his business.
I've actually had the opportunity to be on the same team with him in a recent series that happened, um, uh, which was for charity. We were on the same team, so I
Mhm.
did interact with him a little bit on there, and we had a common WhatsApp group. And you're right, he's like a gentle giant, if I may say so. Like he's just soft, and I mean, what you see isn't what you get at a certain level.
Well, just on basis of all the nice things that our commentators are saying, Ashish Ahuja, you've got some good mojo coming your way. So let's make sure that you ride that 1.3 million chip stack that you have going into this final table. Following closely behind, though, is Vishnu Khandelwal, who plays as Violator. I think that's a fair amount of thought that has gone into a nickname like that. So Vishnu Violator Khandelwal, it's like it should be a part of some kind of a profile on one of those crime shows, but he will just want to steal and create that crime with his 1.04 million stack in second place in chips at this final table of the Headhunter. So we've got these two guys who are in that 1+ million stack mode. And in third place on the chip counts is the player known as Schema77 or Siddharth Karya, one of the more active players on the circuit. He too is one of those guys who keeps scoring a deep run or a title. We see that across multiple platforms, including Spartan Poker, of course. So Siddharth Karya at third position with that stack of 822,000 in chips. And yes, the next name in that list is one that everyone is familiar with in this panel. And that's, of course, Raghav Bansal, who's playing as That's So Sick. I love that username. And it's a sentiment that's frequently echoed on the Felts virtual and real. But with a stack of 629,000, Raghav Bansal very much in the middle of the pack and very much in with a chance to take this down, Sam.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just incredible to see him go straight from the final table in the high roller, and then straight back into the action. And yeah, I'm sure he'll be wanting to make amends for not quite being able to take down the title in the high roller. And
I'm sure all of them are going to just go a little wild, and they have to, right? I mean, that's aggression is key in this format. So we're going to see a lot of bluffing and a lot of just raising with air, and it's going to be fun to watch this FT.
And now we get on to our next player on this final table. And frankly, Radhika, Sam, I'm quite excited about seeing this name here, only because his profile indicates that he is 57 years of age. So generally a player that kind of in age as far as online poker is concerned, you don't see that very often. James Matthews is this player's name, playing as Joe Mathu. And he's got a stack of 625,000 chips. Quite interesting to see someone who is much older than the typical age bracket that's associated with online poker.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not the real Mr. Bean, is it? We've seen Mr. Bean playing this week. But yeah, I'm quite surprised at the name, James Matthews. I sort of envision a guy in a smoking jacket amongst the Indians. Oh, hello, it's James Matthews here. I'm going to click a few buttons online this evening. But yeah, it's nice to see. It's nice to see a slightly older bracket coming and playing online. I mean, why not?
And following James is Anga Vikrant Verma, who's playing as Born Trouble. Another, wow, it's like a series of really good nicknames that we've got at this final table. So here's another player who's got also a stack in the 600,000, 622,000 to be specific. And following Vikrant Verma's stack is another familiar name. He won the first event in this FTS schedule. That's Ashish Parekh playing as You Got Bluff, the title winner of FTS 1. And he's right there in the lower half of the chip counts, but still there with a stack of 417,000. Maybe this could be Ashish is 2 for 2 on, he's already made another final table before this. This is going to be his third final table, sir.
Third final table. Wow. I mean, you've got a particular final table. Looking at those usernames, especially. So he's gone in on short stack. He's got Schemers to the left of him, Violator to the right, and Raghav stuck in the middle with me. I mean, what are you going to do? He's just got to go out there and get those chips in and see if he can make something of it for sure. If you take down this one, you don't need 2 medallions. Send one my way, okay? I need that for my Friday night gig. Cheers.
Sam Razavi, once again, reiterating the fact that not everyone needs that medallion as much as he does. So, yes, Ashish Parekh, aka You Got Bluff, you got one medallion already. So, send one the way of a certain address in the UK, and perhaps there's some more mojo that will happen for another final table and another title, perhaps, in the course of this FTS series. Last but definitely not the least, we've got Vikas Shah playing as Wix 82, and he's the short stack on this Headhunter final table with a stack of 353,000 in chips. So it's a fairly spread mix. There's more people in the middle of the pack, Radhika. I think, though, like we've mentioned before, all it takes is a hand or two and just that tiny slice of luck to sort of get the momentum onto your side.
I'm kind of happy that there's 1 or 2 short stacks, and then there are middle stacks, and then there's a couple of big stacks, because that's going to make the gameplay kind of interesting, because everyone's going to try and attack the short stack for his bounty. And so let's see how the middling stacks play their game.
2,500 rupees from each buy-in goes towards the bounty. And the balance of that, well, it's a 5,000 rupee bounty, half of which goes towards the player who knocks the other player out, and the remaining gets onto the player doing the knocking out. So it's a progressive bounty format. And that's exactly what these players are going to be gunning for, because as we get to this final table, you've got the top 2 stacks with Ashish and Vishnu Khandelwal. They've got 9 bounties amongst themselves, which means they've also got those progressive bounties on their heads additionally. And yes, once again, revisiting that topic that is really a pain point for Sam Razavi. Not only does the winner get to that big prize up top, but they also get that 18-karat gold medallion, a winner's certificate, and a special gift hamper. So without much ado, let's get the fun and the hunt started.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Well, straight into the action there with the cards being dealt at this final table of the FTS Headhunter tournament. And as we mentioned yesterday and earlier in the pre-broadcast of this particular final table, that it's going to be an aggressive sort of a final table, we think, because lots of bounties up at grabs. And as you can see, those figures that are under each of these players, those are the bounties that are on their heads. And if they get knocked out, half of that goes to the buster and the remaining goes back onto them as part of the progressive bounty that's there. So a lot of points and money at stake here. And Sam, Radhika, you think that we're going to see like a really quick final table like we've seen in the earlier half of the schedule?
I hope not.
Yes, we're all hoping that for sure. But I think, given the nature of this kind of a format, Sam, we should expect some early fireworks, maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say if people tuning in from different levels of experience in poker, and if you aren't familiar with headhunter tournaments, you might see some play that you might not necessarily be able to understand because there is obviously the extra benefit of the bounty that comes into play. So there might be some what might seem like strange play going on, but I expect to see a lot of fast and furious action, if I'm honest.
Well, Radhika, you mentioned earlier in the show that this was a format that you weren't necessarily comfortable with when you sort of began your poker journey, but it's kind of grown on you since then.
Yes, it sure has. It sure has, and why not? Because I just realized, as I've grown in confidence with my own game, I've realized that this is so exciting. So yeah, I mean, bounties are fun. The previous hand, Born Trouble just folded fives from +1. I was wondering why he did that, and now he's yeah. I mean, let's see how the game progresses. Now he's open King Queen.
Yeah, part of the reason why they might play a bit tighter with those sorts of hands is because people there's going to be a lot of playing back and a lot of butting heads when there's bounties involved. So there's more for danger.
Which is why I was hoping there'd be more action, and he should have opened the fives. But yeah, I guess.
Clearly speaking like two poker players who are in the commentary booth, Radhika and Sam. And we've got this hand where King Queen suited of clubs in the hands of Born Trouble with Spewshi, aka Ashish Ahuja, who in fact started this final table as the chip leader. I'm sure we're going to see something going in this hand.
Do you know is his username a dig at the man himself, Sushi Aditya Sushant, or is it just random?
I think it probably played a little bit of a part there, but I don't think it's just that. But I like the fact that he's stretched it nice and long there, more like a shout out.
Yushi.
Yeah. Well, kind of similar to the other side of the table where we've got That's So Sick. So Raghav Bansal choosing the name that goes well with this game that we all love.
Yeah, and of course Raghav, just as a quick reminder to the viewers, he's come into this final table off the back of a great result yesterday where he chopped up the high roller. I mean, yeah, my days of playing after that high roller these days at the age of 40, I probably would have taken a couple of weeks off, but I understand. Straight back into the action.
That's just the way it goes with poker playing these days. In fact, it's not a common sight, and it hasn't been a common sight in the last several years to see people play at a live tournament and have like a couple of devices in front of them. So it boggled me when I used to see these things happen, because I can barely keep my eyes fixed on one screen, let alone like three of them that are happening at the same time.
I can barely keep my eyes open these days, let alone...
Spewshi raises it up to 46k, and sure enough, with that ace king suited, Wick City 2 is he's moved all in.
What would be fun if he gets called off with a Jack 10 off? Okay, that would be a bit much.
I mean, that's what I was alluding to. Depending on the size of the bounty, I wouldn't be surprised. You know, depending on how much the bounty is worth.
Exactly.
And given that he has so many chips and it's a quarter of his stack to call, you see some amazing things when there's bounties in a bounty tournament.
Yeah, I mean, these two have the biggest on their heads any which ways. Violator, another name that we're not sure we love or hate, but Violator's got the biggest of them with 86,000 in bounties on him. And of course, Ashish Ahuja, aka Spewshi, who's got just under 70,000 in bounties. So yeah, big targets on both these gentlemen.
Yeah, well, I want to make it clear I'm not interested in money anymore. I was thinking I've been upset because Bitcoin, you know, I didn't get in early, so I came up with a great business plan last night. I am going to be dealing in gold medallions only from now on. if anyone wants to deal with me, it's gold medallions only. I'm starting my own cryptocurrency.
Sam, you need a partner, Sam, because I'm happy to, get
we can discuss.
Well, that's what you can expect at the FTS, folks. There's action that's happening at the table, and there are side hustles that are happening off the table as well.
Off the table and on air, live to the world.
Yeah,
look at us. Sure. We're so transparent.
Yeah, I mean, in a flash though, 2.3 has got into the middle in this pot. I'm not quite sure how that much money has managed to get in there with Spushy only having the ace-3. Surely he can't make a move here. This would be disaster. Absolute zero equity.
Plans for the river? No, he doesn't.
Yeah.
Considering it's Raghav at the other end, I mean, he'd not want to take that chance any which way. So,
Jackson
just as we said it.
Yeah.
We'll come back to the gold connection that Radhika is alluding to, and Sam has definitely more than alluded to in a short bit. Let's just see the hand go through on this one.
Yeah, I don't see any situation where this doesn't all go in pre. I mean, there's a tiny added extra meta game in the fact that Spushy and That's So Sick just played a big hand the hand before. I don't see any situation where this doesn't get 4-bet, 5-bet shoved. 3-bet, 4-bet, all in.
Yep.
I wonder what Violator is thinking about.
Well, he's thinking of violating a few people with 10 high. That's what's going through.
I was hoping you didn't say it, Sam. I was hoping you didn't say it, but you did. And just the way we're rolling at this final table of the Headhunter. And now let's see if Sam Razavi's call about that re-raise all-in situation happens or not.
Wow.
Just no messing about here.
There was no 3-bet, 4-bet, 5-bet shove.
Yeah. Raghav won't like this.
Oh dear.
Oh yeah.
That's so sick.
Yeah, that's so sick. Sympathies, my friend. But pocket jacks and the mojo that hand carries. Well, unfortunately, we have our first bust out in Raghav Bansal. Radhika, I don't think anything much to be done there. It's just pretty much straightforward.
But I was just surprised with the open jam itself. Like instead of 3-betting, he just went for the whole hog, so that was kind of interesting. He didn't leave any room for maneuvering or anything. It was also interesting because it wasn't even a suited ace queen. It was an offsuit ace queen. So which is what I think we were talking about earlier, that the ranges are a little wider. I think in a normal game, maybe he wouldn't have done that with an offsuit ace queen. But here he definitely took that chance. So that was interesting.
Well, I think even though that open shove happened, I think the result was pretty much going to be the same no matter which route they took.
Yeah. But it's just that he jammed such a huge stack, so which was what was interesting.
Sam, do you think because it was Raghav at the other end that might have prompted an open shove rather than... Yeah,
that's exactly what I was going to say. It will definitely play into his thinking because, yes, he does have ace queen offsuit. It's a hand that against such a tricky player like Raghav, I know that he'll be thinking down the streets. He's going to be, it might be tricky to play against him. Also, against a thinking player like Raghav, he could make some lighter calls. Jacks is an auto call anyway, but shoving effective 30 big blinds. He might actually get a call out of worse than jacks. And I know Raghav he's probably hating life when he sees the all-in because he knows he has to call. And quite frankly, leave some money for the rest of them. He's just come off the high roller table. So go take the money you've got and look up samrazavi.goldmedallions.com and get that to me.
Yep, there you go. We're just making sure that all the gold in this part of the world is heading a certain way now.
I love gold!
Just to remind our viewers, Joe Mathu, who's right now thinking about years ago. And there was a gentleman who was a quadriplegic. He didn't have use of his hands and his legs were up on the table, and he was using his legs to pick up his cards. And I was like, if that's all you need, you just need your brain. That's how he played that entire tournament. And I was like, I think I fell a little bit more in love with the game after I saw that. So, anyone, you just need hands or legs to pick up your cards and push those chips in. That's all you need.
Yeah, it's just an amazing game, isn't it? I mean, once it's just, the pull is just so much, so strong. There's so many factors. The reason that I think people sort of fall in love with it, a big part of the reason is something my dad always used to teach me. He said poker and the way a poker tournament sort of evolves. It's a lot like life, you know. There's ups and downs, there's highs and lows, and each tournament is almost like a lifetime, metaphorically, you know. And so, it's just fantastic.
That's right, folks. It's not always about strategy, bet sizing, and all those sort of technical things at the commentary that we're doing. We also talk deep, life-sized, big philosophical things like the beautiful game that we all play and enjoy so much. Well, we're down to the final 7 players at this Headhunter tournament at the FTS. And, Born Trouble versus Schema 77. Schema 77, pretty well-known entity, Siddharth Karya. He started with a little over 8 lakhs in chips, and he's lost a few. Chips out there, but still keeping steady in there. Given that he's coming off a win at the main event of a lot of major tournaments, I think he'll also believe that all he needs to do is hang on.
Yeah, and he's got a very, like, it's fairly deep all round. I mean, he's still sitting with 32 bigs, which is plenty, obviously. So he's in no rush to make any moves at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully nothing exciting goes down in this hand. So I'm just going to quickly remind our viewers about the question that we had shared with you earlier. According to you, what will be the guarantee of the upcoming 10th edition of the India Online Poker Championship? What will be the guarantee of the upcoming 10th edition of the IOPC? Get your answers in using our Twitter handle @IndiaPokerChamp, followed by the hashtag FTS, your name and your Spartan ID, along with your answer, of course. And if you are one of the lucky winners, you will win a ticket into the Flash tournament, which will happen tomorrow. So make sure you stay tuned to the live stream, and we will announce the winners in the course of this broadcast. And back to the action here. Some interesting hands.
Yes, whole bunch of Broadway. Oh, wow. And everyone's got a piece of this flop.
Yeah, this is one of these what you call made-for-TV hands. We've got Jonathan with the best of it so far, with top pair and a gut shot. Vix with top pair and an up and down, and you got bluff. No pair yet, but drawing to the stone cold nuts. So I don't think anyone's going to be folding this flop, that's for sure.
There you have it.
This is most likely. Most likely going to be a chop. But if that King of Diamonds has any plans at all, if he's been out on the on the bottle last night, he might just make an appearance on the end for some sickness. Oh, it was a diamond, but not the one.
Well, somewhere in the corner of a particular city in Canada, some ears have perked up at the mention of the King of Diamonds. Kevin McPhee, we are remembering you at the moment. Your King of Diamonds didn't make an appearance, but it's there. It's got its buddy. At some point, I'm sure they'll make an appearance.
Too early in the morning for the King of Diamonds. He's resting. Yeah. He's got a long day ahead of him.
Well, the pace is pretty nice and steady in this final table, but who knows? Maybe this hand, some fireworks.
Well, yeah, when it I assume folds round. I'm not sure if Spushi will try to take a stab, but once this gets opened on the button, this Ace 10 is a perfect candidate for a 3-bet having said that, I don't know. These players will have played against each other plenty in the last two tables, so they will be more aware of the player tendencies, I guess. But yeah, Spushi deciding the 9 high is good enough. Why not? That may actually end up saving You Got Bluff a bunch of cash here, because this is just going to be a fold.
And just to remind our folks, You Got Bluff, he's got that little FTS icon there, which means he is a winner of a tournament in this particular series. In fact, the opening tournament number 1 in the FTS schedule, was taken down by You Got Bluff. So fairly experienced players at this table.
So what's interesting to note is that VIX82 didn't... no one's really going for a 3-bet, 4-bet kind of strategy. They're just going for the immediate shove. They don't want to... there doesn't seem to be any need or want for headroom or,
I'm quite surprised, because especially in a tournament like a headhunter, you're more likely to elicit mistakes from players that are chasing those bounties. So I'd much prefer to, when I have a hand as strong as queens, to at least try to induce. You're not necessarily going to get someone to just pile the whole lot against you pre, but there's a much greater tendency and a much more incentive to peel with hands that you've opened, and you get 3-bet when you're in a headhunter, because you are looking at that extra, the extra bonus of scooping. Okay, it's not as nice as a shiny gold medallion, but it's some extra money on top. So I'm quite surprised that there have been some strong hands that haven't been.
Yeah, they're not using it to induce weaker hands to come into the pot or to 4-bet light. With queens, I would have definitely just 3-bet and then hopefully, induced a weak ace-x to come along.
Yeah. I mean, on the flip side of that argument, there is also the fact that players do call lighter, or because they are chasing the bounties. But I think, given a stack size 5, it was still 20-odd bigs.
Yes, he had just over 20, which was like a weird, awkward stack size to 3-bet with.
Well, we're going to let Radhika Shankar go, but I'm going to put you on the spot before we let you go, Radhika. Who do you think is going to make it to the top 2 of this table? Your picks for... All right, let's widen it up a little bit. Who do you think will be the top 3?
I actually do want to just still stick to Spushi. Because, not because he's the chip leader right now, but, he's such a solid player. So,
Who are your second and third picks?
Second and third...
From whoever you would know at this table. I'm guessing you don't know all of them. But
I don't know all of them, but I would like Jomathu to run deep. At least the top 3 finish. That would go a long way in promoting the game across all ages, and that would be a nice story.
Fantastic.
And, it could be anyone's game, to be honest. But I do think Spushi's got this one. So see how it goes.
All right. Thank you so much, Radhika, for joining us. We will see you a little bit later.
Yes,
Radhika Shankar, who's part of this broadcast team, thank you so much.
Bye.
Wow.
I get the feeling that Radhika might have wanted to choose Violator also as the top 3, but bro, that username of yours, it's just giving us the heebie-jeebies a little bit. Just a little bit. So
I had nightmares last night after thinking about that. Violator, schemer. I thought I'm being dragged into something I don't want to quite get involved in. But but did you ask her to try and not only guess who would finish first, but who would finish second and third as well?
No, I just wanted her to pick the top 3. I didn't want to put her on the spot that hard. just general picks. That's all it was. There's really no way to judge, given the tables that we've already been a part of over the course of this series. Some strange things have happened. Some strange plays have happened. Shout out to you, Shagar Chaudhary. Yes, your name has come up a lot in the course of our commentary as well. And here we see Spushy putting out a little bet there. This, well, timing could have been better.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a fairly standard. I don't see any reason why Schema wouldn't maybe raise it. This is probably one of the only cards that Spushy, if he was going to try and bluff the river, would bluff. But I think he might just, once he's been called once.
Yeah, the brakes are going to come on.
Yeah.
And that should pretty much end this hand.
Yeah, I mean, he's beating 5-7 or 3-5. That's flicking the hero call with the queen high.
Yeah, just a little bit of a hold by Spushy just to make sure that he conveys it's not all air, but in fact it was. But that's about it. And with that hand, I have the pleasure of introducing our next commentator in this fun ride that we have at the FTS Headhunter Series. A warm welcome to Ramesh Rao Totapalli, or RRT as he's more popularly known. Welcome, Ramesh, to the broadcast. I think we're facing a little bit of an audio issue with Ramesh. Just going to get that fixed.
Hi, Peter. Hi, Sam. How are you guys?
There we go.
Hey.
Good, my friend. Good, my friend. Pleasure to have you.
Going? Yeah. RRT in the place to be. Here he is. Let's go.
All right.
So what do we have here?
We've got a former title winner. Well, not a former title winner, but he's currently a title winner that's there. And of course, a couple of well-known names in Schema 70. Well, who am I talking to here? Of course, this is like preaching to the choir. Who do you not know at this table? Let me ask you that question.
I am pretty much not sure about only two IDs on the table, Violator and Vix82.
You know what? We're also not very sure about Violator. As in general, not just as a player, but that ID is giving us just a little bit of a pause.
We're stepping lightly. Just quickly, because this hand is just pretty standard coming to an end. Ramesh, I had a question for you. Are you thinking of buying or do you have any for sale gold medallions? Just wondering. Just a quick one.
So, if One Trouble on this FT goes on to shift this tournament, the medallion that he would get, I would be more than happy to sell it off to you. Is my boy.
And there you go. Making all the connections, making all the right connections is Sam Razavi.
I'll add that to the book. Ramesh Rao ×1. Okay, moving on.
Well, in case you're wondering, folks, all of this gold talk is emerging from the fact that the winner of all of these tournaments gets an 18-karat gold medallion from the IPC in Spartan Poker. It's a nice little gift over and above the big prize money that they're supposed to get. And once again, a reminder that a little over 6 lakhs heading the way of the winner in this tournament. And besides that gold medallion, there's also a winner certificate and a gift hamper that's coming the way of that winner. So clearly, Sam Razavi has made sure that he's got all of these in line and making sure that he's casting as wide a net as possible to grab all that gold. You're going to be like one of those golem kind of figures, Sam, my precious running around out there.
Stole it, my precious, and we want it. Master took the medallion. Oh, we want the medallion. One Trouble, he folds the Queen 9, but Master wants it.
Anyway, on a serious note.
Oh, you mean that wasn't serious? I was fairly certain that was quite serious on your part.
We want it.
On a serious note, I think it's nice. It is nice to have something, all joking aside, something like that up for grabs because it, although we have seen a few deals take place this week, I always feel like, I have to go for that, the trophy or the prize or whatever. It's nice to leave something to still play for if you're, especially if you've dealt with all the cash. I mean, some people don't care, but I played a tournament many years ago in China, just really briefly, and we ended up getting heads up, and it was a Japanese. I was against a Japanese guy, and they love all these trophies and whatnot. And he said, "Can we do a deal?" I said, "Well, what deal?" He said, "I'll give you all the money if you give me the trophy." And I said,
yeah.
Snap, yes.
I said, "Why don't you just take second place money and pay someone to make you the biggest trophy you could ever?" And he wanted to give me the entire prize pool if he could just take this piece of glass, which was worth like $10.
Don't tell me you didn't take the deal.
I said, "Look, I couldn't possibly," and yeah, I said, I'm a trophy hunter myself, so.
Oh, you are Japanese in disguise too.
Yeah, unfortunately, sadly, I won it as well, so I felt really bad. But what can we do? It was only a small thing. So.
Just resolve things. Just resolve things.
All right, it's been a fairly quiet period at this final table from a card perspective. Not too many big hands received by the players, but there's a lot of experience and, needless I say, aggression that's part of most of these players' games mindsets. So we should see something sooner rather than later.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be too. Yeah, there haven't been apart from those.
Because I guess I have known someone like a Bond Trouble. He's capable of shoving that deuce six, right into anything and everyone defending the big blind. He's capable of doing that.
The hand's gone now. He's got the deuce six now. It's deuce six versus deuce six actually. So.
We have an open from Violator. We have you got bluff defending. Just calling it off, sorry, from hijack. And there you go, an interesting flop. Top pair for you got bluff and a nut touch draw for Violator. Both aren't going anywhere.
Yeah, this is a monster flop, and Violator could. Yeah, well, he takes the other route. I was thinking, fireworks could have gone off there. He's also picked up a pair on the turn himself.
Yeah, Violator patiently waiting to reach there, get there. I think it's a cheap turn bet that he would afford to call.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about it.
That's the worst club in the world to come.
There you go. All the money going in.
Potentially. I mean, I don't think you got. I mean,
he is not flat calling this.
Well, you
got bluff. He isn't bluffing.
I don't want to suggest it, but he may fold. I mean, what bluffs does he have? 6-7.
He's going to shove this. He's going to shove this.
Oh no, I think it would be crazy shoving for value here when it makes no sense to me. I mean, if he does, I think he's considering folding.
He is just shoving this. He's just waiting to shove.
Yeah, I think shoving is a mistake there, given that what can he possibly call with when that he leads the river for that much? It's either he's turned a bottom pair and the turn straight draw into a bluff, or he actually genuinely has or like randomly turning Queen 8 into a bluff because he thinks he's beaten. I mean, it makes no sense. So I think
I think that was a great call. You would have folded this, wouldn't you?
Folded?
Yeah.
I'm not good enough to fold my laundry, let alone two pair. I mean, what are you talking about? No, I think you can't fold. It's really unfortunate that the club's at the 10 because it improves your hand. But yeah, it's unfortunate. But I don't think shoving is an option on the end.
The RNG actually isn't helping any of our commentary because there aren't any interesting hands so far.
Hmm.
King Queen, forget
Yeah,
four.
I was going to say King Queen. While you might not necessarily call a specialist Spushy behind in a regular game, the bounties are out there to be had, and this is more than enough to take a
10 bigs.
Ah, nice. So you got bluff brick out, and the fours hold for a nice double up.
I'm just really surprised that one pretty aggressive guy like Braun Trouble is like keeping quiet, trying to ladder up. Schemer, on the other hand, he has got a bunch of experience behind him. He has put in a lot of effort, a lot of volume online. He streams himself. I've seen him streaming multiple times on a regular basis. So he is also playing it pretty safe.
Mm-hmm.
And Yushi knows his spots pretty well. Coached by India's Nest. You would always see someone like a Spushy on the final tables of most of the events over the week, and maybe
really?
a couple of you'd always see him having a couple of titles once every 2-3 days. I don't know how that feels because I've never been there. Ace Queen Jack.
Well, we've seen this. Yeah, we've seen this hand earlier. Ace Queen versus Jacks. It's all going to go in again. This would be a crazy fold if he made it. Everything on the turn. Yeah.
Jack on the turn, nut flush draw on the Jack on the flop. Sorry, nut flush draw on the turn, and then GG.
And
Uncle has gone.
And straight away we're looking at you got bluff has a prime candidate for a free bet shove here if Spushy opens, so we might be seeing another all-in pre.
I'm not sure if you got bluff would want to put it in free. Excuse me.
I think Spushy's been opening like
extremely
fairly almost 100% when it folds to him. So I would probably be getting this in here. What is it? 15 bigs? I'm not sure about calling there.
Sam, I still remember one of those PSL days when you and me we were like at the bar in the casino at the break, and I remember there was this guy who came up to you and he said, "You know what?" You asked this guy, "Why did you shove?" I think we have a fairly decent. So why are you shoving like 15-20 bigs free on a live tournament? You asked that guy. I was standing right behind you.
Yeah.
And I remember this incident very, very well because Sangeet Samo was also part of the discussion. And the guy is like, "You know what, bro? I was extremely short." And you were like half drunk that you were. And you're like, "What? 20 bigs and you're short?" So you know what short means? For me, short means like 4 bigs and 5 bigs. And I have gone on to FTs and chipped those FTs with 5 bigs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Sam comes up to you, taps your shoulder and says, "You know what? We are here in a competition. You don't disclose your strategies there." That's what Sam did to you. I don't remember if you still remember, but I still remember that incident.
I remember coming up to the bar. I think you actually got me a beer that time.
Yeah. He has a nut flush with Ace Queen. I don't think Spushy is capable of holding this.
Yeah, I mean he has to fold, but yeah, it's a nice run out, isn't it, for the
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean this is
there are no bluffs there when you are when you're out of position and you're getting a raise early. So there are absolutely no bluffs. The snap fold
Yeah,
for Spushy.
Yeah, it's a side fold. I mean, any random 9-10 with a 9 or 10 of clubs as a value bet on the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I agree with 15 bigs is huge, but obviously trends have changed over the last few years, haven't they? And you even start seeing these sort of big shoves in live events as well, and they're becoming more and more acceptable. You know, the over jam and
Yeah, and we have seen a lot of new pool coming into the picture, with not that much amount of respect for the money. So it's all about glory for them.
yeah.
So yeah, G2 doesn't work there. Ace 10, Queen 10, nice hands to go into a heads up with. Both suited cards. My goodness, I just can't believe that Bond Trouble is capable of doing what he's doing. It's going to be a long conversation after this tournament.
I mean, yeah. I think it's a fairly standard. I don't know.
It could be a standard, Sam, but knowing Vikrant Verma, who is Bond Trouble personally, I don't think he would have done this on any other normal day.
Do you think it's the fact that there's different dynamics in a headhunter event, or?
No, I just think that he's just chilling somewhere. He's like taking it easy. I'm quite sure he must be at a beach right now with a beer in his hand and the phone in one hand, and he's just chilling. King 3 versus Ace 10 on the river, Ace on the river, and more often than not, you got bluff is going to take this down.
Yeah, there seemed to be some turn action. I think, was that Violator let out on the turn?
I think it was a check on the turn.
Because there's already free M in the middle. Well, we're gonna put Born Trouble's chilling logic to the test here, because he's got this is a monster. If he folds this, he should just log out.
Yeah, and I'm going to find him.
So yeah, we're definitely going to see some action here. Spushy won't be folding the ace-3 suited for sure from the big. He's shown the tendency to put the pressure on. I'm not sure if ace-3 is quite going to cut the mustard for him, but I wouldn't be surprised if he plays back. And yep, that's what he's done. Yeah, I love this. I love this aggression and this line that he's taking. I mean, there's so many hands that Born Trouble just cannot call off with here, and well, this is one of them.
The best in the business, Spushy shoves from his big blind.
Yeah.
Pretty tough spot for Bond Trouble. He's essentially flipping. He decides to call this off. Yeah. Sweet little spot taken by Spushy, sorry.
Oh.
Pocket rockets for Mr. Schema.
Yep, and you got
I
bluff.
don't think he's getting any action from any of them.
Well, RRT, did I hear you do your best Liam Neeson impression? If you don't play the King Queen suited, I'm going to come and find you. I'll take your vote for Sam Razavi, but that's beside the point.
have a particular
How
set
can you
of
just
skills.
not? There are two suited
Well-
cards, king and a queen. Bro,
Yeah, fair enough.
It's easy to be tempted with a min raise, the Queen 5 suited in the big blind. But yeah.
as I said,
Frustration.
no action for pocket aces.
Yeah, always a little depressing when, even if you're not holding them, but to see that go just to waste in that sense.
Yeah.
And here's another round of very decent garbage, which
Very
should go the way of You Got Bluff. And
Yep.
for our viewers who have just tuned in, as you can see, we have a few big winners on this final table. The IOPC icon indicating that Schema 77 and Spushy have won a title at the India Online Poker Championship. We're running a contest for that, so make sure that you get your answers in. And of course, the third player who's in fact got pocket nines now is You Got Bluff, who's got that little FTS icon. He's the winner of FTS event number 1. So he'll be hoping to make one more win here, if possible, and add to that tally. Leaderboard points as well up for grabs, so there's a lot to play for than just the prizes.
Yeah, and well, you got Bluff. Three. Is that a 5? Is that 5x? 1, 8.
It's a little more than 3, I think.
Oh, this is what I told you about. He's capable of doing these things. Sam, I just said it. He's just capable of doing this.
Yeah, I think it's. I think I quite like the shove because the 4x raise just. It's become quite a common trend these days to put in big raises with total garbage from the small, and yeah, this is a fairly easy call. I don't know why he hasn't called it already. So, yeah, it's just unfortunate to have actually run into a hand.
Yeah, it could have been one of those typical moves being made, but
DJ Vikrant Verma, it was nice seeing you play.
clearly RRT is not going to hunt you down for your gold, my friend. So rest easy tonight. And with that, Born Trouble takes away. Let me look at the prizes here. Boy, there's just so many windows happening right now.
He just has like 1,88,000 as a cash out for the
Yes,
just finish.
that's correct. Thank you for that, RRT. And
Sorry,
with
I'm
that,
sorry, it's this finish. So he has taken a cash out of 1,42,000 rupees.
1,42,000 going the way of Born Trouble, aka Vikrant Verma. Well played to young man from Mumbai. And with that, RRT, thank you so much for joining us. We'll catch up with you a little bit later. And let's continue the action right now at this Headhunter
Yes,
final.
Peter.
Yeah, a lovely little limp trap here from Violator. I'm sure it's going to be a free bet. Free bet pile, probably. Now that it's gone 20-40, we're talking like 30 bigs effective, blind on blind. And this is fairly standard. And yeah, it's a curious one for Violator, but he has to let that go. So yeah, we're down to 5 hand fairly quickly.
I beg to differ, Sam. I think we got down to like almost 4-handed and 3-handed in some of the other final tables. So this has been a bit of a cruise going thus far. So yeah, I honestly expected being the headhunter and the format that it is, that it would have gotten to this stage a bit sooner. But well, things change dramatically. Like RRT mentioned earlier, that the spotlight being on the live stream, a lot of these players are basically feeling sort of the pressure of being out there, visible for the rest of the world to see, and maybe they're changing the gameplay just a little bit as compared to their usual styles?
Yeah, well, the other thing that I would say is that one thing that maybe isn't such because it's quite a tight knit community, and if I'm thinking as a professional poker player in India, and I'm thinking, okay, this is what I do for a living. I grind online. I'm at final tables every week. I might want to throw out the odd random play or make people think that I'm because they could. All my opponents that play against me can now see how I play an entire final table and what I do in various spots. So I wouldn't mind just going in and saying, "Oh, I'll choose this one to mix it up." Throw throw my opponents off guard. But yeah, you're right. You're right. There's obviously that added pressure that there could be some judgment on the various odd play. I think we just caught a hand as we were talking there with Vix doubling up off of Spooshi. Was that right? He flopped Ace-9 top 2 pair against Spushi's Queen-8 of spades, and he flopped Ace-9 of spades, and they got it in with the flush draw against the 2 pair, and Vix held up.
Well, that would have been an exciting hand for someone who likes the King of Diamonds, and I've been told that he is just about ready to join us. Please welcome Kevin McPhee to the live stream. Kevin, are you with us?
Yeah, thanks for having me back again, Peter. It looks like we've had some pretty good action so far. Quite the lineup we have here. I know we're supposed to be unbiased as commentators, but my teammate from the WSOP team event and my teammate from the PSL, Sid Karia, is on the final table, so I kind of have a rooting interest for him. But it was nice to see him get that double with the Jacks versus Ace Queen earlier. I'll be interested to see how he plays. He's, in my opinion, a very talented player.
I'm really looking forward to when live poker begins in the country, because just with a name like that, Schemer, I'd love to see him do that at the tables too. That's the only drawback of online poker, that you don't get to see these little things. But hey, oh my God, a red king, sir, but not the one that you're looking for. Kevin McPhee, thoroughly disappointed with that one, but not as much as the rest of us. You got bluff getting it up there.
The King of Diamonds waiting in the wings.
Yeah, it does feel like almost every time I just hop on the commentary, kings get dealt. Feels like the timing is pretty impeccable there.
It's crazy, yeah. It's happened a few times this week. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the King of Hearts.
Yeah, we see Spushy pretty comfortable, even still after doubling up Vix with the Ace-9 or the Queen-8 suited to the Ace-9. Still navigating a stack over 40 big blinds. Pretty comfortable at this point, but we are getting in the danger zone for Vix and Violator about 22 bigs and Vix sub 20 big blinds. So I would expect to see some action here. Really, it's going to be tough for Schemer and You Got Bluff to get overly involved at this point. They want to make the pay jumps. They want to make sure that they still have some chips to cover some of these short stacks in the chance that they can get a bounty. So I would expect Spushy to really be turning on the jets here and amping up the aggression. And that's Ashish, right? So Ashish, pretty good player, came out to the World Series last year, and I met him. And man, he had just so many cashes at the World Series. So I think he's a pretty talented player. In fact, he made a final table of one of the bracelet events last year with I believe a fifth place finish or something like that. But he just had a load of cashes. So he's going to be a pretty dangerous opponent for these guys, especially with the big stack. And we see him picking up queens with the Queen of Diamonds, the sister of the King of Diamonds. Pretty nice looking hand here. And I think this is going to be
you've been watching
automatic
of it, Kevin?
I watched all of it. I mean, I was disappointed with the last season, but
as were we all.
Yeah, a little disappointing. I think it's going to be a pretty automatic defend here with the 8-9 of diamonds.
Was that?
Flops.
Oh yeah, okay.
Flops the gutter
Folded.
and the backdoor flush draw, so certainly worth a continue in some respect. I'm interested to see if Spushy c-bets here. It's normally an auto c-bet board, so I would imagine even with pairs between sevens and kings that you're still going to be c-betting. And wow, we see Sid check call and just nail the nuts on the turn with the beautiful 7 of spades. Pretty nice card, but hard to think he's going to get much more action here from the queens. Once the queens gets called, that's 7 turns. That's all over the big blind defend range. So I would expect no more chips to go in the pot here from Spushy. Wonder what kind of sizing you go here with the nuts if the opponent c-bets, checks back, and hard to think you want to go too big.
और बोलना कि हमारे घर में खाली लाइट चला गया बाकी सब जगह है.
Well, clearly someone's left their mic on. We're going to take care of that in just a
मंदीप का
second.
फोन नंबर है ना तुम्हारे पास?
Little surprising seeing the call there. Sid went with the basically 2/3 pot bet there, and hard to think there's too many hands that the queens beats. I guess some pair straight draws that would have bricked. Yeah, I'm a little surprised by that. Sid's pretty solid player, doesn't get out of line too much. I think he just doesn't really make that many mistakes, to be honest. And certainly, I think with Ashish's reputation, not really the guy you want to bluff, especially with that chip stack. So I was a little surprised to see the queens get stubborn there. But just, maybe just a product of having a really great absolute value pre-flop hand. So can't blame him, I guess, too much there.
Yeah, I was quite surprised at the call as well on the end. But yeah, like you said, there's some pair and straight draws that bricked off. Yeah, I mean, you can't imagine he'd be betting like the 7 for value because, like, what are you expecting to get called off by, for example? But yeah, it's what it is.
Yeah, I guess like something like 7-8 or 6-8 or something like that. That kind of has the blocker to the nuts and maybe realizes that the only way that they can win is not by checking, by betting. Kind of maybe leans the queens more to a call. And then here we see Shemer 77 with 5s on the button. Doesn't look like he's going to get too much action, but I mean, any suited cards in the big blind is, especially ones that can make a straight. I mean, 7-3 of clubs is not exactly an ideal hand, but any suited hand that can make a straight, I think, pretty reasonable defend here. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out with the 5s being the under pair to the board here. But Spushy really just has no equity here, so can't imagine he's going to win this pot unless something very creative happens.
Yeah. I mean, if that was a 6 of clubs in the middle there, I might think, well, I've got plans down the line here, but yeah, he's just got, it's just total garbage. And
Well,
yeah,
guys,
I think that.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I've just got an update that, it's been a fun ride so far with us doing the commentary for all of these events. And tomorrow evening, we will be looking at the final table of the FTS main event. And I've just been informed that registrations have now closed for that. Both the flights are done. And we've got a prize pool of 2.09 crores that's been collected. So going past that 2 crore guarantee that was set for the main event. That's the update for the FTS main event, 2.09 crores. So a whole bunch of prize money to be played for by those players.
nice.
Sounds like a pretty nice event. I wish I could be in there grinding with everybody too, especially after getting to watch a lot of the play. Really kind of jealous of those that are grinding and watching right now. Hopefully we'll get a chance to commentate on you guys tomorrow, assuming you make the final table. So
Yeah.
Sam, I have a little more
I wish I was
information.
involved. Yeah.
I have a little more information
Yeah.
for you, but after this hand.
Okay.
yeah, and here we see Sid with the ace king with the king of diamonds. Very nice pre-flop hand, and pretty standard for people to be defending almost any suited cards in these spots. But I mean, I can't imagine anything is going to happen here besides just a check bet and a snap fold. But I think normally on these ace high boards, you see a little bit smaller bets because the equity deals will run pretty hot cold. But with the ace 10-9, 2 of a suit, it's a little wetter, so we're going to see, somewhere between half pot and 2/3 pot. I think a lot of the time on those sort of textures, and of course we just see the snap fold. And now we have pretty sick setup here with VIX, 14 big blinds on the button with pocket 7, certainly worthy of just jamming it in. And Sid waiting with the monster in the big blind.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
tens flop the set. He's pretty
Easy
much
game.
dead on the flop. We are down to 4.
and that was Wix 82 who got eliminated in 5th position. He takes home 1.88 lakhs for his prize money. Wix 82, Vikas Shah is that player. Well played to him. Close, but no cigar. And yes, like he said, down to 2. Down to 4.
Ooh, there we go.
Yeah, and the ace deuce suited, about 20 big blinds effective, maybe a little bit more in the small blind with the bounty on the line. Maybe a hand that sometimes you'd want to limp, but with the bounty in there and the pay jump dangling in front of him, certainly worthy a shove, and he runs into it, the ace queen from Violator. And Violator gets the big double up through Shemer 77, Sid Karya. Just a kind of an unfortunate spot. I don't really think you can blame Sid for shoving there. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it's pretty standard. I was wondering if he was going to go for the same trick he played earlier. He limped to induce with the ace high, then he got a raise out of the big, and then piled it in. And I'm sure he was never folding. Like his plan was to get the money in. Sorry, I said that wrong. His plan was. I'm guessing if he just limped and was shoved on, he would surely fold. But it was one of 2 options: either limp and try and get a bit of value out of a raised jam, or shoving. Also fine. I mean, it's quite standard. Probably 5-6 years ago, they'd be saying that 20 big blinds is just what are you doing, shoving 20 big blinds, blind on blind? But it's pretty standard. Unfortunate, really, when you just run into that monster heads up.
Yeah, we saw Sid do a play earlier where he limped in the small blind with 10s, and then Violator had like ace 4 or something like that, and raised it up, and then eventually had to limp fold or raise fold.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that was slightly different then. I was thinking it was the ace high earlier, but it was he had the 10s. Yeah, so.
Right. So I mean, 10s is just a great candidate to limp in those spots because you're unblocking a lot of the hands that want to shove or want to raise, and you allow them to just raise with their garbage hands too. So with 2 10s in your hand, you're not blocking the ace, you're not blocking the king. So just probably one of the best candidates that you could have for a limp trap in those spots. And we see Sid limping here again with the ace 7 suited, a little bit more of a product of how much deeper they are now. Of course, the blinds went up, so we're at 50K big blind now, but the ace 7 suited, like those suited aces are pretty decent like limp hands because you protect your range a little bit there. And here we go with the ace king of diamonds. Doesn't look like we're going to get much action here with Violator, though. Min raise. Yeah, it's hard to think that the 10 will never fold.
What a flop that is.
Wow.
Just a royal flush draw, just a casual royal flush draw. No big deal. And Yushi with the open ender has a little bit of equity in this pot. Of course, he is way behind with the ace dead, and the 9 of diamonds not being an out. Interesting to not see any action on the flop. I think Violator knows that Spushy likes to get in there and mix it up, and pretty much has the deck killed with that sort of hand. So I think a check is pretty reasonable there. There is just a lot of hands that you would get called by for a small bet. So I think that you could kind of mix it up there and do a split strategy, and you can't really be blamed for either way. And here we have an interesting confrontation. So yeah, the King Jack, small blind, 20 big blinds effective, likes to shove. Going to be a snap call for the ace 10 suited. And we have another elimination.
Wow, that was really quick. It almost seemed innocuous the way the action went down, and then in a snap, we lost another player. And unfortunately for You Got Bluff, aka Ashish Parekh, winner of FTS #1, he is no longer in the running for bagging his second title, finishing in 4th place for a prize of 2.37 lakhs. So well done to You Got Bluff, but again, it's now down to the final 3. Let's see who takes down this title. Again, a reminder for people who are tuning in, the main event has finally closed its registrations, the FTS main event, which has a guarantee of 2 crores. As we see Schemer moving all in with his ace-jack off. So the FTS main event closing in with a prize pool of 2.09 crores against the original guarantee of 2 crores. So going well past that, and there are lots of prizes at stake. And a certain Mr. Razavi's ears will now perk up, because I'm going to mention what the main event winner also gets besides that huge up top money. There's also 41.9 lakhs. That's the up top money that's there for the winner of the main event. And yeah, I'm getting there, Sam. I'm getting there. There's also a 1-year sponsorship that the India Poker Championship will provide to that main event winner. And finally, a gold and diamond medallion for the main event winner awaits.
Oh, hell no! A gold and diamonds. I'm booking my flight to India. Hang on, I'll be back in a sec. That's insane. Yeah, I'm gonna have to add that to my portfolio of how I'm going to be dealing with in the future.
That was a pretty interesting hand that just went by.
Yeah, I would say so. I'm shocked. My jaw went to the floor there. King Queen suited, opening the button, getting a 3-bet from the chip leader out of the small blind, and elects to just fold.
Fold?
Yeah. Yeah, I can't imagine ever folding that hand. I mean, I just can't imagine. That's like the best hand you could possibly have to just call a 3-bet with. That isn't just like a massive trap. I mean, I am a little shocked by that. As maybe the pay jumps are weighing on his mind a bit there, but I just can't really see any reason to fold the King Queen of Hearts there. I mean,
yeah,
and it's
not like Spushy is a really tight player. He's opened almost most hands that have folded to him. He's been really active. I wouldn't be folding that hand there.
Yeah, I'm flabbergasted. That was very shocking. So back into the action here, we have Schemer 77 opening on the button with the ace 9 of hearts, flopping the middle pair. Spushy defending the meager 6-4 offsuit. Little optimistic defend there, but really anything that can make a straight, you can't really blame anybody for defending that. And interesting, Sid elects to not c-bet here with the middle pair. What do you think about that, Sam? How do you approach flopping middle pair in these sort of spots?
Well, I mean, it's also player dependent, isn't it? If you're, it's a combination, I guess, of pot control and also giving Spushy maybe a little bit of rope. We've seen he has a tendency, although we obviously have the leisure of seeing the whole cards, but Spushy does have a tendency to take a stab if he's given a bit of rope, and yeah,
you called it. And he does. He gets to the river with the 6-4 Sid just gives them all of the rope there with the middle pair top kicker, and Spushy, realizing that 6-4 has 0 showdown value, and that his opponent is checked twice, elects to do a fairly large bet on the river and just gets snapped off. So the plan worked for Schemer there. I think that's a pretty well played hand, and definitely I think you're right in saying that he's adapting to his opponent and his opponent's aggression level there. He might just c-bet that hand against a different opponent, so kind of interesting seeing how people approach those medium strength hands and kind of change their approach based upon their opponent and their tendencies.
Yeah, and also we can't really blame Spushy, I guess, coming to the river. It's his only way out, really, to get the chips. So, but yeah, it would be interesting if now Spushy sort of readjusts to that tactic if he recognises that Schemer's getting a little bit trappy with him, to be able to give up those hands where he literally has no chance of winning them. Well, here we might see an example here. Let's with Schemer flopping top 2 pair.
Yeah, certainly if you're going to defend the 6-4 offsuit, you're going to be in there with the 5-7 offsuit, and he's just maintaining, being active, and I think we're going to see a small bet here from Sid and just a snap fold, but we haven't really seen Sid get too out of line. I think he's been playing this final table pretty well, as you should, like from a middle stack perspective. He's done what you're supposed to do, which is kind of check back, protect your stack, control the pot, be selective in your starting hands, and kind of let these guys that are pressuring the other opponents do their thing and just secure the pay jumps. But now that he's 3-handed, the pressure's off a bit, and he has got a little more neck and neck with Violator here. So with 2 suited hands here in the blinds, we're going to see a limp and a likely check back, which we in fact see, and Sid gets the monster flop with the gut shot straight flush draw.
Yeah, that's a monster flop. That is check raise or just.
Yeah, I don't think you could blame him for a check raise there. It's just you don't want to be in the spot where you have to call a 3-bet shove with 6 high, I guess, and having the combo draw to the pure 5 out. When you have like a nice gutter like that plus the flush draw, I'm a little more inclined to just check call those flops, because if you do hit that gut shot, you're like super disguised. They can't really
that's
really put you on that. But pretty nice lead from him with the board pairing of the 4. I think that when you see those board pairs with middle pair and bottom pair, that's a lot of times you'll see a change in initiative there, where you'll see an opponent all of a sudden lead, because they're going to have way more of those 4x, 7x and stuff like that on the flop. So pretty aware there by Sid. This pot is certainly interesting.
Yeah, so
she opening the button.
Yeah, so Violator's floated with the ace high on the flop and actually picked up another absolute monster draw, up and down straight flushing. Gets there on the end.
And we're going to see another one of these check call lead spots, which in an earlier broadcast I said usually I find that to be pretty strong. And from what I've seen so far at these final tables, the whole card's up. Of course, we have the information of knowing what the cards are. I just have seen this line a bunch. It's just check call lead when something completes. And we've seen just people like snap call without really too much consideration. And almost always the out of position players had it in those spots. So something you need to be wary of a bit, I think, when you're playing these online tournaments, is just, when your opponents are like check calling, and then the draw gets there, and all of a sudden they just lead and change initiative. It's just like hard to find a bluff there, So
Yeah.
I mean, I can't blame him for calling king queen, but man, that's
Yeah.
a gross spot.
No, I agree. I always get sick when I'm check call. I'm thinking I've got the absolute nuts, and then when they lead on the end, I've noticed it's usually representative of of game over. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
I guess it's a little bit contingent on the size as well. Like if they go big, if they go like half pot or 2/3 pot or something like that, it's just so hard to find bluffs. But if they go small, quarter pot, third pot, you know, it looks more like they're trying to name their price for showdown. And you know, I just think that really the difference in those spots that you should be looking out for is the sizing that they're leading for. Once it gets over half pot, it's like, man, it's so hard to find bluffs. And then once it's like quarter pot or third pot, it really just appears like a blocker bluff where they're trying to name their price for showdown. So I might be a little more inclined to call in those spots. I honestly don't know what I would have done with King Queen in that spot. Three-handed game and such a good hand. Just feels like you're obligated to call, but like in those spots when I call, I just feel like I'm never going to be good. Honestly, like it's pretty gross.
What do you think of the big over bet on the end? Is that more often than is that totally polarized, or these days, or is it more often than not?
Yeah, I mean that's the traditional wisdom. But if they're polarized, that means that they have some bluffs and they have some nut hands. And when you're looking at a board like that, it's just like, man, where are the bluffs? You know, I just maybe some naked ace high hands with like a diamond in them or something like that. But it just seems very optimistic, you know, to just be always stubborn in those spots. And Spoochie sacrificed his chip position calling off there. I mean, definitely an unlucky run out for him, but now he's went from the penthouse to the outhouse, so to speak. And it'll be interesting to see how he plays the short stack. He had been super aggressive with the big stack, opening pretty liberally, defending about as wide as you can legitimately defend. And I'll be interested to see if he continues the aggression with the short stack or maybe just waits a little bit. I mean, the pressure's off of him, so I would expect him to even be more aggressive to a certain extent.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I think sort of knowing him, you know, not as well as I know most other players, but being familiar with him, I think he's not going to let up.
This gets checked to the river. He has the blocker to the nut straight, the king jack making the nut straight. So at the king high, I think he kind of recognizes that Sid's just going to have a bunch of one pair hands there, weak one pair hands, I should say, and ace highs, and correctly ranges his opponent there and gets the fold, bluffing the king high on the river. So we are seeing him amp up the aggression to answer my question before.
Well, once again, Schema 77 versus Spoochie in this particular hand. We're going to say goodbye to Sam Razavi for a second because he needs to go and count the number of gold that he has hidden in the vault below his house.
Excellent, Smithers. Excellent. Okay.
We'll see you in a little bit, Sam, once all that accounting is done with.
Oh, man.
In the meantime, though, Schema 77 hits his 10 on that flop.
Yeah, this is a limp pot. I think it's very reasonable to not want to raise the king seven, realizing that you're at a chip disadvantage here. Pretty fine limping hand. Of course, the king of diamonds in his hand, usually good for some fun. And in Sid's spot here with the jack 10, you know, when you're facing a small blind limp, I think that really these connecting cards, I should say up to a point, they make really good check back hands, and you just keep your opponent's range wide, and they flop really well. And we do see him flop top pair here, but Spoochie, king of diamonds, bringing a buddy on the river, you know, and we're going to see a bet and a snap ball. So pretty unfortunate run out there for Schemer 77, and I think he's pretty obligated to call there the way that hand played out. Pretty interesting spot. But the blind versus blind spots, I mean, this is something, if you're an amateur player, like these are the most common spots that come up. So if you're an amateur player, if you want to focus on some positions to get good at, then you want to focus on studying the most common spots that come up, and those more often than not will be blind versus blind confrontations. I mean, massive swings happen in those situations throughout the tournament. So if you really spend a lot of time studying those, which I can see that a lot of these players really have, that's going to give you a huge edge in the tournament. Kind of starting small blind versus big blind limp pots, and then expanding it out to button versus big blind defends, cutoff versus big blind defends, and just kind of like branching out your knowledge base by positions and studying a lot of those spots. Then you're going to start plugging like the massive leaks in your game quicker, as opposed to like looking at early position versus MP3 bet pots or something like that. Like you just don't see those as often as you'd see the blind versus blind confrontations. So if you are studying and looking to get better at poker, these are the spots that you want to be looking at, because they just come up by far the most. So,
well, it's down to these three. We've got Violator, who's just marginally ahead with 1.8 million. That's Vishnu Khandelwal, Schema 77, of course, Siddharth Karya, and Ashish Ahuja playing as Spushy is the third guy on the table. We've got three interesting players who are here. And Kevin, I think this might sound a little silly, but the blind versus blind spots, the common ones that you just referred to, I'm guessing that also helps when you're down to a heads-up kind of a situation as well, or even a three-way situation, because it's going to put you in those similar kind of situations.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, as tournament players, we're used to playing 8-handed, 9-handed ring games, and maybe the tendency when you're a beginning player is just to play really tight and passive in these spots, blind versus blind. But the aggressive, more experienced players are gonna chew them up, and they're gonna make a lot of chips in those spots. And when you do study those spots, then yes, you will have more experience when it gets down to heads up. You'll be a lot more comfortable with what sort of hands you're supposed to be checking, what sort of trash hands you're supposed to be raising versus the limps. And it's not only going to help you through all the stages of the tournament, but it's going to help you the most at the end of the tournament as well, when the biggest money is on the line. So you want to be prepared for those spots, and you want to make sure you're giving yourself the best chance to win the tournament. So maximizing your EV throughout all stages of the tournament, and then using that experience and that study that you've done will also just help you a ton in heads up. So yeah, I completely agree with you on that respect. Yeah, so we saw Violator open there with the ace-X on the button before, take it down. Now we're going to see Sid limping the small blind with the 7-deuce suited. Again, suited hands, pretty much an auto-complete from the small blind. Interesting, we just have the min raise from Violator here, which is going to, of course, price him in with Sid in with really any suited hands.
Right.
And I think he would probably normally be limp folding 7-deuce suited. I mean, it's pretty much suited hands. So I don't think you can legitimize limp calling with those, except to a min raise. So if the 7 had come, it would have worked out quite well for Violator, but I think this is just going to get checked down, and the ace high is going to win.
And there you have it. Called it by Kevin McPhee, as we see Violator pick up pocket tens. And we welcome Ramesh Rao Totavali to the broadcast once again. Ramesh, welcome. We've just been talking about some common spots. Let's just have a look at this hand, which I think is not...
Hi, Peter. Good to be back.
So, Ramesh, we were talking about, these common spots like blind versus blind that Kevin McPhee has alluded to. And I think as a beginner player, these are important to sort of focus on, especially in the way the game is played today.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of younger players getting exploited by people with a bit of experience, where they keep manipulating blind versus blind spots. And I completely agree with Kevin. A lot needs to be learned by the younger generation when it comes to maneuvering through these kind of spots.
Well, an aggressive move by Spushy in the last hand, going all in with his ace, king of what was that suit there? Diamonds, is it? The ace king of diamonds?
I knew you were going to say something about that. But yeah, very, very nice hand there. Interesting, he elects to just shove with it. About 30 big blinds effective. So, I mean, I think there could be an argument to just 3-betting there, but, you know, there's so many hands from the small blind you want to shove for 30 big blinds that having some of your top range hands in there too, I think makes a lot of sense. And actually the hand before that I thought was fairly interesting as well. Violator with 10s in the small blind elected to just min raise, and Spushy did have 7 deuce off in the big blinds, so elected to not even call to the min raise. But I don't really like that as a strategy for the small blind. Min raising is just, I just think it's incorrect. You have to be, if you're going to come in for a raise, it needs to be a little bit bigger. I think minimum 3x. You just don't want to be giving your opponent odds with a lot of random hands. I think min raising, he's pretty much obligated to call like 90% of his range, and obviously he has the 7 deuce offsuit, which is below that.
As garbage as it gets with the 7 deuce.
Yeah, it kind of just exemplifies though like the different approach that these players have, because we saw Sid in a very similar spot limping the 10s, knowing that it's a very good trap hand, knowing that he unblocks the ace X and king X, and he got the raise from the big blind and was able to limp shove at that point. So honestly, I think that just limping the 10s there makes a lot of sense. Your opponents, when they check back, they're going to have 2 undercards to your overpair. So like letting them actualize their equity with those hands doesn't hurt you, because they're going to flop top pair with a bunch of garbage stuff. And I just don't really see much of the point in min raising from the small blind, to be honest. I think that he should be limping or 3 to 3.5xing with his hands that he elects to raise with. So I think we've seen a couple of spots like that from Violator that maybe makes me wonder if he's studied those spots as much as other guys have. He did also min raise in the big blind when Sid limped, when Sid had the 7 deuce suited. He min raised the ace 7 off, and I think that's just a sizing error. If somebody limps, you should be making at least 3x. And if you're opening from a raise from the small blind, it should be also at least 3x. I usually make it about 3.2 or, you know, up to 3.5. But at this stack depth, I think you like somewhere between 3.2, something like that, it would be a little bit more warranted.
Fair enough, Ramesh. I think you'd probably also fall in with that similar line of thinking.
Yeah, like it's pretty much standard what Kevin had said, unless people tend to get very creative about the bet sizing.
And remember, folks, we're saying the word creative in quotes because it's not always as creative as it seems. Sometimes it feels like a few neurons have busted open in one's brain. So, yeah. Once again, Spushy going up against Schema 77.
Yeah, and with 20 big blinds effective in a hand that flops as poorly as ace-6, I think with the blocker in your hand, you're more than happy to just rip it in. And, you know, it's going to be so hard for Sid to have a hand to call with there. And, I mean, I really dislike ace-6, but certainly any ace there would be, especially the worst aces that you don't really think flop well. They make excellent candidates for just ripping it in. I mean, you block the ace from your opponent's calling range, and you're just happy to take down the pot and realize, realize your equity. Well, not realize your equity, but just take down the pot. And again, we see Violator doing the same thing here. Min raising from the small blind with the ace-7 offsuit. He's not got punished for it yet. Spushy had the 6 deuce off there, so again, he's in the bottom percentage of his range, and Alexa just fold. But that is a dangerous proposition to be min raising from out of position versus an experienced player's big blind. I mean, you're just asking for trouble. I would not be recommending to anybody to do that.
This has been a pretty long three-way game. So,
yeah, I mean, I think we kind of expected that. I mean, I think Spushy had about 40 big blinds when we came into the three-handed game still, and just takes a little bit of time for these blind levels to get up and to force the action a bit more. I did find this hand quite interesting, though. Violator opens the 5s on the button, and Sid in the big blind just has the ace-8 offsuit, and Alexa just call. I certainly don't think that's a bad option. I think it's worthy of consideration to just rip it in there. I mean, what do you guys think about that? I mean, 20 big blinds.
Yeah,
versus
Violator
one
just tried to violate a little bit.
raise.
Well, as much as you would have liked to
Violator,
with the clock
violator,
going.
violator, violator.
That's right.
That's a
Folks
pretty catchy
provide
song.
commentary and entertainment in the form of song and dance. Well, not dance so much, but that's just the way these final table commentary sessions are going. And that pot taken down by Violator.
Yeah, and he leads there with the 10-7 on the 8-4-3 board.
Okay.
Pretty
We do have an interesting hand. Yeah, small blind versus big blind. Chemo can make way. Yeah.
I think this is getting in here. We're going to see the min raise again. This time he has a very strong hand, the ace-jack suited. I don't see Spushy really doing too much here except just ripping. He definitely could 3-bet to induce, but I think just ripping is just super standard. And we're going to see Violator call it off here. Probably after a little consideration. It is a big shove. This is the key pot of the tournament up to this point. And yeah, I just don't see how you could ever raise fold ace-jack suited here. So, but we did see him fold the king-queen suited before.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That
Violator got violated this time for a change.
It's a high level of discipline there, but I mean, that was a tough fold, I'm sure, for the player.
I just sometimes keep on wondering, what do these guys do? 6-way they do something, 3-way they do something else.
Well,
I don't know.
Isn't that the way of the poker player, to do everything differently every single time? As Fushi picks up a nice hand, another suited ace-jack.
Even Schema has a pretty decent hand that way. He could just go on to defend if he chooses to. Suited connectors.
Yeah, I mean, he's a little too shallow, I think, to be doing anything but folding there out of the small blind. 14 big blinds effective. I mean, I just can't imagine calling there. And yeah, I try to be exclude the suited connecting hands from my reshove range. Try to be a little more linear, so I'm a little more equity driven when I do reshove. But yeah, we see Schemer getting in here with the king 10 suited, 15 big blinds. King 10 suited is a very solver approved hand. You can get in a lot of chips with that in certain spots, and
I like that term.
Get down.
Solver approved. I like that term.
So the thing about solvers is I've never used one.
Well, same here, but then I don't play as much poker as either of you gentlemen do. So maybe one of these days, after the FTS gets done, get a crack.
I sometimes feel there's a huge scam with solvers. They tend to keep the fish alive.
There needs to be enough money in the ecosystem, so perhaps it's not entirely a bad thing.
So I would want to see a world where we're back in the 80s of Vegas. With a cigar in one hand, a beer in the, maybe in the underground tables. That's about it. No solvers, nothing. Just talking drunk to each other and playing poker.
Nice board for Schema in this hand.
It's pretty interesting that he didn't use that blocker bet with having the nut flush blocker.
Yeah, he got there on the river with that flush.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Sid doesn't go with the lead there on the river, and we've seen that from a lot of other players. But I kind of like just checking in that spot. It allows your opponent to keep bluffing if they do have a bluff, first of all. And then also they can just continue with their ace-x, and you can get a nice check raise in on the river. So he was obviously checking with the intention of jamming there. And Violator, who's been fairly careful. I mean, folding the ace-jack suited to the 30 big blind shove, blind versus blind. Folding the king-queen suited, button versus small blind 3-bet. Maybe not as inclined to just keep barreling and definitely not go for thin value, given the way he's played this final table. Of course, we know the cards. Sid does not.
The flop.
Wow.
So the flop pair and a crazy kicker for Violator and a 2 pair for Fushi.
Well, the way things have been going down, this might just be it for one of these players. Although I think Violator's definitely got more chips than Spushy, but this would.
I think Violator is going to get crippled in this hand unless there is a very interesting river. It isn't anything interesting, and we would definitely see Violator just calling it off. Whatever species decides to bet.
Yeah, it's just a question of how much.
Wow.
Wow.
Snaps it.
Wow.
Wow. So Spushy decides to jam it on the river, gets a decent snap call.
Violator has been
There you
playing
go.
so disciplined and almost, Kevin, almost veering on being almost gun shy. In fact, he was the biggest of the stacks going into 4-way and 3-way for the most part, and now he's down to a little over 6.7, 5.8 after that bet, of course.
Yeah, I mean, he's had some unfortunate runouts so far in this three-handed game. Of course, the top pair, his ace-3, getting run down by Sid's flush draw. But, he's played pretty careful in a couple spots, too.
Ooh.
And, wow, we see, was that a raise call with the 8-5 suited there?
So he jammed sixes and Sushi just took a light call. All the Sushi hit his 8 pair on the flop. He rivered a 1-cut flush. That's what happened on the hand. And Violator gets a small little double up.
Yeah.
So for viewers who are on the stream, it's a little lesser than 300k for the third place finish and a little above 400k for the second place finish.
Yeah, and we have a blind increase here, so we're up to 80k big blind now. We see Sid electing to just rip it in with about 11 or 12 bigs on the button with jacks. I would have been interested to see what would have happened if he had min raised there. I think Spushy would have, at minimum, found a defend with the ace-3 off, if not just a reshove. But I think Sid just wants to keep his ranges balanced, and certainly having some good hands in there when you're shoving 12 big blinds like jacks is warranted. And yeah, we're going to see the aggression amp up a lot here with a lot more pre-flop all-ins now that the blinds have gone up. Violator sub 20 big blinds, Schemer at about 13, 14 big blinds. So, and we're just seeing Schemer shove. So nice little run for him there, going from about 8 million to 10 or 11 now, right? Yeah, 11.
Yeah, 11, little over 11.
What's more interesting is Violator has been playing it really good between two very well-known pros. He has navigated enough pretty fairly and decently. That's pretty commendable.
Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in.
Yeah,
Tough spot to be in. So,
and his position is just in between these two.
Well, I have to say, while there's not too much information about the Violator, aka Vishnu Khandelwal, he has actually participated in the first ever IPC all the way back in the day, and he in fact took a second place position in that one. And along with that, he's also finished second runner-up in the WPT High Roller. So he's got a fair bit of final table experience, and even with this hit that he's taken to his chip stack, he's going to put his best foot forward.
yeah, pretty interesting. He takes a stab in this limped pot on the flop with the 6-4, just trying to take it down there. Sid wisely checking the top pair to try to induce some action here. And we get a pretty interesting turn card.
An open ender there.
Yeah, I think we're going to see Violator continue to barrel here, which he does. Does he have one more barrel left in there?
Yeah, I'm just wondering what's the bet that's going to... Wow.
Wow.
What a gross
That's
spot.
a pretty stick move from Violator, and Schemer we can expect a fold from Schemer with the kind of player that he is, but sick move from Violator. This is something that most people are not capable of doing, like value betting your open enders and not getting there, but still trying to take down the pot with some sick bluffs.
That's a heck of a move from Violator. Yes, sir, you have earned the right to call yourself that because that's a move, sir. Big set of brass ones on you with that all in move. Really putting Schema onto a massive think,
What's more interesting would
into a
be,
massive
Peter, to
tank,
see
I
if
think.
Schema actually calls this off and, catches his bluff. That would put, a point more to Schema than Violator, because Violator would definitely get violated. I'm just so interested to see the time back grinding out what's going on Schema's mind right now. Siddharth Karya, I'm sure we can figure this out, but let's wait and watch.
Yeah, it's certainly hard to put your opponent on an ace when you limped and he didn't just jam. I mean, it would be pretty standard to jam in that spot with any ace X. So I think Sid can relatively discount that. Now, Violator has played an unconventional style, so it is hard to range him. Boy, they're just kind of playing the dark here. I mean, you check call, you check call, you check call in a limp pot. It's you can really be shown anything. So, and
Wow.
we do see him make the call.
We do see Siddharth Karya taking down that pawn, and that's a sick move by Violator and a pretty much more sicker call by Siddharth Karya.
Yeah, I mean, he was trapping the whole way, and it's really hard to give Violator credit for the ace, considering that it's a limped pot. So I think Sid took his time, which he should, and thought it through, and kind of discounted the ace X as a likely thing. So really, at that point, Violator's just repping some sort of garbage 2 pair, and I think when you think it through, there's a lot more bluffs that he has than he really has 2 pair hands. So very well played there by Sid, sniffing out the bluff and securing a huge double up that will likely vault him into heads up. But we do see Violator sticking in his last little over 2 big blinds with the King 5 suited and getting the triple up. So he is back to 6 big blinds. And certainly
I think it's a
deuces
pretty fair jam for him. Yeah, with deuces.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
his leg is definitely going to call it off. Yeah.
So Sid will have the shot to eliminate Violator here with the ace jack if they hold up against the deuces, a classic race. I usually prefer having the overcards here. Just deuces get counterfeited a fair amount of the time, but pure flip. And we do see the ace on the turn. Sid Karya eliminating Violator in 3rd place. So nice run by Violator. Certainly well played. He's got to be happy with that result. And a nice experience to play against 2 tough players here. And I'm sure he'll learn a lot from that experience. So to heads up play, we have Spushi
Ahuja and Siddharth Karya.
Yeah, Sid is just, if I could just talk about Sid for a second, he is just one of the nicest guys I've ever met. Like, he is such a sweetheart and just, very passionate about poker. When I was in Goa playing the PSL, he was on our team, the Going Nuts. And you could just immediately tell that he had a bright future in poker. I mean, he was just always asking the right questions and just seemed to execute very well. He played very well during the series as well, and certainly his play helped vault us into a nice chip position for the final and eventually to take down the PSL. But he came out to Vegas last summer, and I teamed up with him and Iyer and Duvall, and the 4 of us were on a team Going Nuts for the tag team event in Vegas.
Wow.
And we made a pretty deep run. I was really hoping to win these guys a bracelet, but I lost the big flip with a few tables left, ace king to jacks, to the eventual winners of the event, the Israeli team. So I was pretty gutted. I would have loved to help those guys win a bracelet. Of course, Iyer took down a bracelet later in the series, the first open bracelet win by an Indian player. So, I mean, I lucked out. I got on a great team for that PSL experience with Duvall, Iyer, and Sid. I think Sid came in as one of our qualifiers, actually, and I was just like, wow, this kid's super smart and just had a great passion for the game. So I'm very happy to see him make this final table. He certainly is deserving of it, and it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, because Ashish is also an excellent opponent. man, he just had all the cashes last summer. It seems like every time I was walking through the Rio, I would see him with his shades on, just hiding behind a big stack, and just always he seemed to always have chips in every event. I mean, I think his cash rate must have been pretty astronomical last year. I don't know how many events.
I think he has the highest number of cashes in a WSOP in a given year by an Indian.
Yeah, he was crushing it last year, and of course he had a fifth place, pretty close to the gold bracelet. And
even Bansal was part of that FT. Raga Bansal, I remember.
Oh, right. There was a couple of Indian players there. Yeah, that's true.
I remember asking him, do you want to still go back to Vegas after that sick run? I think it's time for you to retire. And it's like, no way. I would just go back every other month if WSOP is happening.
Yeah, it was his first year in Vegas too, right? So that's pretty impressive. That's real impressive. Interesting spot happening here.
Oh, talking about Sid, I still remember seeing one of his Instagram or Snapchat stories a year or maybe 2 years back, where he was grinding some tourneys online in Goa. And I remember a friend of him posted this online, where the electricity in the place where he was staying went off. I think the Wi-Fi conked off or something, and Sid was running on the roads, finding a Wi-Fi so that he could just reconnect back into the game, and he was on some FT. And then we could actually see on the Facebook video that he was standing on the street with his laptop in one hand and just clicking buttons. Yeah, it was very funny to watch.
I have been there before, where you're rushing with disconnected internet trying to get to a new place. Nowadays, I'm so paranoid. If I get to a new city in a new country, I always make sure I have backup internet. I get a dongle. If your power goes out, that's a different thing, because then you can only last as long as your computer battery lasts. But I have been there before in my travels. In Mexico, it would happen all the time. When I was living down in the Yucatan Peninsula, your internet, your power would go out, and I got to the point where I was just traveling with a backup laptop too. I had a little HP Mini that was about 8 inches wide, and I could hook up an external monitor to it. And if my power did go out, and then I would attach to a dongle, and then if my computer died, I would have the backup.
Pretty interesting hand right now. Ace for suited for Sid and Kings for Fushi. This could possibly be the final hand of the tournament if both of them decide to do something.
It's a lot of chips to get in here, but certainly a good 3-betting candidate. I'd like to see a flat here. Yeah, and we do. And wow, this flop. There's no way it's not getting in now on this flop. Right?
This is exactly what happened last night with me. I told you about the cash game hand just before the stream.
Right.
This was the kind of flop.
You had the ace high flush draw with the hearts too, right? Against the kings.
Yeah.
So just a massive, massive cooler here. It'll be, I think, Spushy.
Sid has got there, and there's no way.
Wow.
Spushy is drawing dead in this hand. We just want to see how much damage this causes to anyone Spushy's stack.
It's going to be carnage, but I think with a nutted hand like this, you don't have to go for a big size. I think you can go for a small size, and it'll be interesting to see how Spushy elects to approach this. In fact, we see a check at the
sneaky, that was a sneaky check from Sid. Yeah, that was a very sneaky check from Sid.
I really like that. And then we're just going to see the jam, and it's over. It's over, ladies and gentlemen.
Game over. The sneaky little check from Siddharth Karya wraps up this Headhunters tournament with Spushy jamming in and just getting caught there.
Yeah, just a sick cooler. I really like the flat pre-flop. I really like when you flat kings pre-flop to continuing to flat on the turn. You're not worried about too much. Of course, the opponent can have a flush draw, and in fact did. So he was just drawing dead on the turn and worried about another heart coming in. I don't think we can blame Spushy for jamming for value and also protecting himself from the heart. Maybe it would have been a bit different if we had seen the king of hearts in his hand. But I think that hand played out pretty well. I think, Spushy just just really a really unfortunate sequence of events there for him. But congratulations to Sid. A big result for him and a gold medallion coming his way and some leaderboard points as well. And wow, just what a great final table. Really fun to be able to mix it up and see a bounty event as well, where kind of drives the action quite a bit more, So yeah, really just I love watching these bounty final tables, and it sure is a pleasure to have you guys here to commentate on it with me as well.
Yeah, a sneaky little check from Sid on the turn with the nuts, which makes Ashish Ahuja believe maybe he had nothing and maybe he was scared about the flush being opening and he just jams it on the river. But it was a cooler kind of a hand for Spushi. But congratulations, Siddharth Karya. This is a pole position, another pole position that you have, and well played, Ashish Ahuja.
Yeah, very well played by both players, and excellent result for both of them. I think they can both be pretty happy. Of course, I'm sure Ashish is a little bit gutted to. He had a big chip advantage four-handed, but then, man, Sid just got smashed with the deck short-handed. He was down to about 10 or 11 big blinds, went shove, just got a bunch of folds and chipped up a bit. And wow, just that big hero call with the king deuce. That was just the pot of the tournament. Just in checking and just giving his opponent all the rope to hang himself and finding the hero call on the Scare River. Hats off to Sid Karya for a very well played tournament, and as well to the runner up. Just a really, really top notch poker there, shorthanded.
There we go. That's Kevin McAfee signing, and Ramesh Rautapalli signing off for the Headhunters Tourney FT. We'll see you soon tomorrow for the next final table.
Thank you for having me, guys. That was a lot of fun.